Hi guys, how's it going? It's Liam Sheriff here again with Principle 2 of Fat Loss, and today we're going to talk about toxic cleansing. In this video I'm going to explain why it's important to cleanse your liver, improve your liver function and remove toxins from your diet so that you can get the ultimate fat loss success and result that you want. Why do we need to cleanse and why is it so important? Basically, the purpose of a cleanse is to perform a complete liver detox by removing the substances that are toxic to your liver. Your liver, if overloaded with toxic substances, will actually become overwhelmed and subsequently its detoxification ability amongst other vital processes will become hindered, and the result is that you end up storing a lot of body fat. The liver is actually the body's greatest multitasking organ, and its many functions do include removing and eliminating toxins, breaking down any excess hormones, balancing out your blood sugar levels, producing bile and storing nutrients, and basically most if not all metabolic or allergenic disorders can be traced back to a poorly functioning liver. The problem with this is that any disruption to or inhibited function of any metabolic function equals dramatic fat storage generally for you. If you have a poorly functioning liver, then your body's going to tell you about it, okay? So you may come out in a rash, you may break out in spots, you may be tired all the time, you may store fat too often, yeah? Your body's going to give you signs and symptoms and tell you that something's not right. How to put it right is what I'm going to show you now. So how do you actually go about cleansing the liver? Dead simple. You need to remove the following 6 things, starting with wheat and gluten. Anything that is like breads, pasta, cereals, cakes, anything like that, get rid of it, okay? Read your labels is my biggest piece of advice, because gluten, due to cross-contamination, is pretty much in a lot of the stuff that you wouldn't realise, okay? Alcohol, all of it. Unfortunately, despite what Weight Watchers tell you, there's no alcohol that's better than the other, yeah? It's the alcohol itself that's the problem, not the type of alcohol to an extent, okay? So, remove it from your diet. Dairy, all except live probiotic Greek yogurt, which we'll talk about later on. Sugar, including table sugar and sweeteners and stevia and stuff like that, remove them all. Processed or non-foods, as I like to call them now, most of which contain all of the above toxins anyway, okay? So if you check the labels on some, I don't know, some packet pasta or something, you'll probably find dairy, maybe it's even alcohol, but definitely wheat and gluten in there anyway, okay? So remove them from your diet ASAP. Caffeine, except green tea, and that's purely because green tea contains antioxidants initially, which is really good for removing free radicals, but it also contains theanine, which suppresses the caffeine effect, okay? So that's an amino acid that suppresses the caffeine effect of the green tea. Okay, so why do we want to remove wheat? So what's the problem with wheat then? Basically, your body can't distinguish between wheat and sugar. So your blood sugar levels will spike, your insulin levels will spike and go far too high after eating wheat, rather like they would when you eat sugar. Wheat's generally an allergen for most people, and not many people can tolerate it, okay? So things like allergic reactions, asthma, eczema, nausea, or poor digestion, bloating, tiredness, fatigue and food cravings, all are accountable to wheat generally. I used to have eczema personally, and when I started clean eating it disappeared, and I didn't really put 2 and 2 together until months later when I ate wheat again, and again my eczema came up and flared up again. So I mean, how many times after having a sandwich or pizza, takeaway or whatever, do you feel like you just go to sleep, or you're lying on the settee after your Sunday dinner, after your wheat fueled puddings, let's say, and you want to just fall asleep watching the afternoon footy? Yeah, so wheat's a bit of a nasty, I'm afraid, but unfortunately it's such a staple part of our diet today. As a side note, brown bread is no better than white bread. Your bread could be turquoise orange, even though I know that's not a colour, but it could be that colour, and it wouldn't make a difference. It's the wheat and the gluten that's causing us the problems there, not the colour. Next one, why do we need to remove alcohol? Alcohol is basically pure chemical sugar. Okay, it spikes your blood sugar and insulin levels dramatically high, which always puts us into a fat storing frenzy, which can take about 3 days to sort of come down, if you like. So 3 days to end following consumption of alcohol. Alcohol lowers testosterone, which is one of our anabolic hormones, which actually helps dramatically increase the rate at which you burn fat. So if you have low levels of testosterone, then you're going to be storing a lot of body fat. Alcohol is basically toxic to your liver, and every time you drink it, your liver's basically like, what the hell is this? And it's time to store it in the fat stores. Fortunately, shuffling this into your adipose tissue or your fat stores just makes you look bigger, and obviously increases your fat cells, and basically adds body fat to your body. So I know this is pretty self-explanatory with alcohol, but the more you drink, essentially the fatter you get. Okay, so remove it, not forever, but for at least the first 14 to 28 days. So why dairy? Why should we remove dairy when it's such a wonderful calcium providing substance? Well, it isn't, I'm afraid, and that's because most dairy produce is heavily processed and uses pasteurization and homogenization in order to maintain the time the supermarkets can display it on its shelf. Because time is money, and the longer they can put it out there, the more money they make. Okay, the process of sort of processing dairy actually kills off the enzymes required to properly digest the dairy itself. So when we eat something, it's essential that we have digestive enzymes within the food, but also within our body to digest whatever's coming in. Otherwise, we won't digest it, and we'll end up having food intolerances and things like that. So because dairy and milk particularly, has all of its digestive enzymes removed, your body has to work overtime and to digest them, and that basically overwhelms and intoxifies your liver even more. And as a little side note, I always get the question of, where do I get my calcium from? Aside from the fact there's more calcium in sort of a big handful of spinach than there is in a pint of milk, where does the cow now get the calcium from? Yeah, unfortunately, most cows live on sort of poor quality grain diets rather than the traditional grass-fed beef that you can get, or grass-fed cows if you like, and so their calcium intake is low anyway. So, you know, again, it's probably one of them myths where we all assume that milk's got loads of calcium in. Obviously, there's an element in there, but we can't digest much of it anyway. So, you know, I'd rather eat greens than drink milk if I wanted calcium. Okay, so why with sugar? The top and bottom of sugar is that it makes you fat. Okay, if you put in your body more sugar, or energy if you like, than it needs, then it's going to turn into fat. We're not going to have that requirement. Off the top of my head, I believe we only function on around about 2 teaspoons of glucose, or 2 teaspoons of blood sugar at any one point in the day to perform our normal daily activities. Obviously, you would require a greater amount when training, etc. So if you consider only needing two teaspoons of sugar to perform whatever you want to do, yet there's about 15 in a Mars bar, where do you think all of the excess is going? Yeah, generally it'll be turned into fat, if you like, to keep it layman and stored in your fat cells. So too much sugar always equals too much fat. Sugar elevates insulin, which is primarily a storage hormone. So as we said, if the blood sugar levels are too high for what we're doing, if you like, or for the energy that we're expending, then insulin is just going to basically shuffle all of that into your fat cells again, which makes you fatter, and it gives us obviously a lot of problems. So why do we remove processed foods? Basically, you should avoid all of them, and the reason you should avoid all of them is because anything with an E number or unpronounceable name, or anything that's pre-cooked or pre-baked or packaged for longer life, is a complete non-food to your body. Okay, I've talked about this quite a few times before, but your body's cravings for food is actually a cravings for nutrients. Okay, so if you give your body the nutrients that it needs, your cravings will end. So when you're following the clean eating, obviously in the first couple of weeks you will get the natural cravings as you sort of get withdrawals from things like caffeine and sugar and stuff, but when you're clean eating, you generally find you don't need to eat as much or as often, because your nutrient levels, if you like, within your body are obviously a lot higher than they were before, because you're eating more greens, eating more veg, and you're eating more nutrient dense food. So by putting these non-foods in your body, then your body's not really getting much nutrition. Then half an hour later, you're generally hungry again. And just out of pure interest, I'm not even sure Einstein would be able to tell you what all of them chemicals are. I think there's 56 of them that go into the McDonald's strawberry milkshake flavouring. So if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. That's one of the rules that I have my clients abiding by. So why with caffeine? Why do we remove it? Well, caffeine overexcites and then later wears out the adrenal glands. This leads to massive energy fluctuations and the subsequent need for a hit, if you like, or a sugar hit. Avoid all caffeine in teas, coffees, sodas, energy drinks, and basically wherever you'll get caffeine, just remove it, okay? But energy drinks and obviously tea and coffee are your biggest ones generally. But things like Diet Coke and stuff as well will still have caffeine in, generally speaking. So remove them, because when your adrenal glands are producing cortisol, which is our fat storing hormone, the levels are actually sort of put higher by caffeine for up to 16 hours. So if cortisol's high, you're always in a fat storing mode anyway. Okay, so let's say you woke up at 8 o'clock in the morning and you had your first hit of caffeine. You're probably only likely going to be awake for another 16 hours anyway before you get another 8 hours sleep that night, meaning that for the full time you're awake, you're potentially storing fat. The thing is with caffeine is that it obviously does affect your sleep as well, because cortisol, which I'm not going to talk about too much in this video, is it's meant to actually peak in the morning to wake you up and get you up and go and get you out of bed, and over the course of the day, sort of post 12 midday, it's meant to gradually come down until by sort of 10:30 at night it's suppressed enough so that you can go to sleep. Okay, while melatonin, just like a repair and recovery hormone, comes and takes over, essentially sends you to sleep. If your cortisol cycle is all over the place and you have peaks and troughs up and down throughout the day where they shouldn't be, then you're going to likely suffer and struggle to sleep. So if you are a heavy caffeine drinker and you can't sleep very well, then this may well be your reason. Obviously, if you can't sleep very well, this is bad for fat storage because you won't be able to repair and replenish appropriately. Okay, so caffeine, take it out where you can. It does nothing for you. So what do you increase? Because that's what you need to remove. The following: vegetables. Never mind you don't like vegetables. Nobody particularly loves the taste of, I do quite actually like spinach, but nobody obviously craves vegetables generally, okay? But get them in there, no matter how you get them in there. If it's a greens drink, never replace your meals with greens drinks though, but whether it's a smoothie, just get your veg in there. Yeah, there will be veg that you like. I mean, I think in England we only eat about 20 of the whole world's thousands and thousands of veg. So, you know, try different foods, try different veg, things that you've never had before, and surprise yourself. But with veg, obviously they're low in calories and they're massively nutrient dense, so you can eat a lot more of them and it'll help you to feel full without sort of having to crave and gorge yourself on sweets and all the rest of it. Increase the amount of fish, or the selection of fish, meat and poultry that you have. Have different parts to the chicken as well, so the thighs, the wings, the breasts. And have plenty of good fats and proteins with fruit. Now, this is sometimes a bit of a controversial one, because naturally we all assume fruit is healthy. And fruit is healthy, it's full of nutrients. However, because fruit contains something called fructose, which is fruit sugar, that has a profound effect on your insulin levels, and it actually spikes your insulin levels as high as sucrose, which is table sugar, can. Okay, so if you're eating a lot of fruit, which is fine, if you're not having any good fats and proteins which help stabilize the insulin level, then you can actually put yourself at risk at storing fat, or at least preventing or hindering your fat loss result. So every time you have fruit, make sure you have what I say, a small handful of nuts or seeds which has good fats and proteins which will stabilize the insulin level. Cinnamon, the spice cinnamon, also has a similar effect and helps maintain and keep a nice low, or steady if you like, insulin level. Have plenty of eggs, nuts and seeds, and at least 3 litres of clean water per day, as UK tap water contains around 350 chemicals which can inhibit your thyroid function. And your thyroid gland is the regulator of your metabolic rate, so if that's functioning poorly and you have low thyroid, then you really want to come off UK water, okay, and switch to bottled water, which is essentially clean water. And that's pretty much it. So that's how you remove the toxins from your diet. That's how you improve liver function, and ultimately, following that, that's how you get dramatic, fast fat loss results.